This is a critique of Brandon's project from Project 2 band posters. And I wanted to just point out a couple of things. So, first of all, the French police poster. By the way, I like all the posters in general. I think overall they're pretty good. I have a few points to make though. So, first of all, the French police, that type is quite drastically squashed. So, I've actually set it up in Photoshop so you can see this. This is what that font should really look like. So you're just taking that and just hammering it in. So, you could always argue that it's a part of the idea, but generally speaking, you don't want to squash type. And the reason for that is that a type designer has put a lot of care and attention into making sure that the proportions of the type are right. So you could try to find a typeface which has a similar kind of feel for you, that's more condensed if you wanted to have a condensed typeface, or use the font how it is. You're trying to make it bigger, so you could make it larger. When we make it larger, I don't have this font that you're using, although I probably actually might be able to find it. This is, I believe this is Bauhaus. So let me make a selection over it real quick. And then I'm going to go to type, and I'm going to go to match font. Let's see what Photoshop thinks it is. So it's actually giving me one which is not it. So it's not Avenir. This one would be a similar font, but it's not quite the same. Oh, hang on. It's giving me some more. So, yeah, it doesn't look like it's finding it. No. So that might just be that it's not one which is on my system. So I'm going to go over to File New Window. I've got so many windows open. I'm going to go to fonts.adobe.com. Fonts.adobe. I can't type. There we go. And I'm going to look for the Bauhaus font. So I think it's actually Bauhaus 93 is specifically the one I'm looking for. I don't actually see it here. That's shocking. Well, anyway, don't squash your type is basically what I'm trying to tell you. So I can't load that font. But like I was saying, you could try to find a more condensed typeface. On this part right here, where you have the frame around the outside of the photograph, if you were to do that, I think that the ellipse here, or the radius I should say, on the corner of these should be the same. And it seems a little bit weird to me the way that on this side it's got a bigger space or a smaller space than on that side. It doesn't look like that's intentional because everything else is so symmetrical. It all looks a little bit off as well. Like if you notice here, this frame is slightly cutting off on the right hand side, and so is 8 p.m. at the bottom. This 8 p.m. and the $90 part of it as well. Again, all of that type is very squashed, which is losing legibility quite drastically. The Halloween show, it's pretty hard to read, even though that's quite big, compared to French police up here at the top. So don't squash your type, and then try to make these fit the same. So actually in Illustrator, if you were doing this in Illustrator, I'm not sure which software you're using, but if I have a rounded rectangle, so I can start off with just a rectangle, and you have a clipping mask for the photograph, so the photograph is inside of this. If I wanted to make another one, like a frame to go around the outside, which is equal distance, I could do object and then go to path and then choose offset path. And I can offset that path, say, I'll try 0.25 of an inch, so that's quarter of an inch. That looks about right. And then I'll change this to a stroke. That way that frame is equal all the way around. I also feel that because of the font that you're using, which is this very kind of chunky, rounded font, that stroke, if you're using it, might want to be a little bit broader, a little bit thicker, I should say. So something like that. So I think that that's it on that one. On this one also, these parts like live at and the date are also a little bit tricky to read. I might switch to a font which is a little bit more legible here. So here, Tame Impala gets a little bit tricky to read, but we can get it because they're recognizable. The Hollywood Bowl is, I can kind of read it. It's fine. I can read it and it kind of sets the tone for it. But for some of the more informational text, you might switch to a font which is complementary to that. Maybe a serif typeface, maybe a fairly chunky serif typeface, but something which kind of goes along with this, or it really contrasts it. Something which contrasts this font completely. So that's what you want to try and do, is find something which matches it rather than sticking with that same font, because that's a display typeface and you're using it for text, which is really a much more functional purpose. I felt like on the Tame Impala at the top here, this should have a greater sense of importance. That this is the main thing in the poster. And so although it is bigger in terms of the hierarchy, or higher up I should say, in terms of the hierarchy, it doesn't feel like it is big enough of a contrast to me. I feel like the information down here at the bottom, the Hollywood Bowl, it is an important venue, so it's good to have that fairly large. So maybe don't change that. But I feel like Tame Impala, first of all, it feels like it could be stretched out a little bit at the top. I know I was just telling you not to stretch type, but this actually looks like it's being stretched the other way. I think you're putting it maybe in an envelope distort. I'm not quite sure how you're doing that. If you're putting it type on a path, it would look slightly different from that, I think. So maybe try doing it type on a path and have the type be as big as it can go. It could almost be like coming right to the very edge of the page here. And then this is giving it a sort of psychedelic feel. So maybe the circle around him also has a kind of frame, because it looks like you're doing this in the psychedelic style, right? All right, I think that's it. I don't think there was anything particular on this one I wanted to comment. I think that was about it. Make sure that your information isn't right on the edge of the page so it starts to get cut up like you're getting here as well. All right.